Hi everyone, thank you very much for stopping by and returning to the Old World with so much attention on the High Elf enclaves in the Warhammer Old World environment. I thought it would be a good time to add a bit of diversity and cast an eye over their more rural, forest-dwelling cousins. Let's have a bit of a think about the world of the Wood Elves. Now, I'm awful at predictions. I think this has been made very, very clear through a whole host of videos. But that's not going to stop me having a go. So let's turn our attention to what do I think might appear in the Wood Elf army book, the Arcane Journal, when it finally drops. We don't know a lot so far, but we do know that there's a certain format which is being consistently followed when it comes to Arcane Journals. We're seeing two armies of infamy. There's no reason for that to change for the Wood Elves, and let's face it, if they were going to depart from this, the Empire would have been the perfect opportunity for a third or even fourth composition to be released. So let's stick with two armies of infamy. What am I expecting to see? First of all, it's the army of the Lost Kindred. Now, way back in 1996, there was an army book for the Wood Elves which told us about a kindred which left Athelloren in search of the extremely rare Wythel trees. And whilst their kin were sorry to see them go, this kindred had become so focused on this tree, as and when it started to die out in the forest of Athelloren, they had no option really but to go on a great quest to search out new trees of this type. This kindred faded into obscurity, all contact with their brethren being lost, but it is believed that they survived. So why have I picked up on this small nugget of the lore? Well, what do we see across a lot of the Arcane Journals? We see a very mobile, predominantly mounted force as one of the armies of infamy. And I think this Lost Kindred really ties into this particular theme. Why so? Well, a kindred that has had to get used to travelling, moving long distances in order to find its eventual location. What's the word that really sticks to mind here? It is mobility. Even amongst the highly mobile forces of the Wood Elves, these people are going to have to be able to travel. So, within this vein, I would expect to see forces made up of Wild Riders, Glade Riders, Warhawks, just scouting, things like that. But also it gives us an opportunity to see the return of a classic Warhammer model that's not been seen for an awful long time. What am I talking about here? Well, it's a unit that was most closely associated with the kindred of the Meadow Glades. One that actually makes very little sense in the dense woodland environment with which the Wood Elves generally make their home. It's the Wood Elf Chariots. Now, if you're riding around in a forest through little tracks, etc., these are all absolute axle breakers, but go forth across the plains on a great search for a new homeland. Chariots can be used for carrying stuff, they can be used in battle. They give you a hard-hitting element which the traditionally light cavalry of the Wood Elves would struggle to provide. So we've got potentially here an Arcane Journal army of infamy and an obvious classic model which could be re-released, remastered and re-released, however they want to do it, in order to bulk out the forces available to the Wood Elf collector. Okay, so what about Army of Infamy number 2? And there's one thing that the High Elves have that really differentiates them from pretty much every other faction available in the game. And that is the Treekin, a force consisting of treemen, of dryads, war dancers, maybe forest swarms and other creatures of the deep, dark forest to really provide a different spin on the classic Wood Elf army. Again, there is precedent for this. If we look at the orcs and goblins, they have a troll horde list, given their close relationships normally with things like trolls, with giants, etc. So why not a force made up predominantly of treekin? And again, we can tie into some really classic things which are long gone from the worlds of Warhammer. Here I'm turning my attention to the Beastmaster, maybe having some options around forest swarms, things like that, controlled by a Beastmaster, possibly even a Beastmaster special character, would add some roadblocks, some tar pits to a Wood Elf force, and again really change the way it's playing. It's not just move and shoot. You've got big hitters in the form of treemen. Or if you've not got a special character Beastmaster, there's always room for a special character treeman. Some big hard hitters coming in, wanting to get into close combat. Your opponent being slowed down by little gribblies from the forest, really messing with their mobility. Could be an interesting variation on the classic Warhammer Wood Elf force. I'll finish with a quick little speculation on who do I think the story in the Arcane Journal is going to be associated with. And had you asked me at the turn of the year, I think the obvious answer would have been the forces of the Beastmen. But we've seen them appearing a lot recently. We've seen them in the Empire book, we've seen them in the High Elf book. So why on earth would we see them yet again? Obviously, with Beastmen still to come, Wood Elves and Beastmen coming out in quick succession, being linked to each other through storylines would be quite interesting, but I don't think that'll be the case. If we look at the history of the Wood Elves, there are perhaps two factions which really play into their story. One of them is Bretonnia. It's incredibly close distance between the forces and the kingdoms of Bretonnia and Athol Loren. So barons intruding on the lands of the Wood Elves isn't going to be an uncommon sight. So a story around ambushing a Bretonnian force could well find some merit here. And we've also got the treasure-hungry dwarves. And there's many a tale of expeditions marching into the forests of Athol Loren, never to return again. So either of those factions, I think, would make interesting stories, and I think we'll probably see an ambush-style scenario. Actually, I quite hope we do see a good ambush-style scenario, anything here that really expands on the style of battles that we're used to playing. For Warhammer is going to be a good thing. So there we have it, my thoughts and speculations around the forces of the Wood Elves when we eventually see them, hopefully in the not too far distant future. Do you think I'm being realistic? Are you looking for a particular army of infamy across this Arcane Journal? Do let me know down in the comments below if you are. All that remains for me to say is thank you very much for listening to my thoughts on this topic. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider a like and subscribe. It helps support the channel and also allows you to keep abreast of the latest videos as and when they're released. Once again, thank you for listening. I am returned to the old world. Have a great day.